guys, driving out here in my community garden space. Last year I laid down the weed block and then mulch over top of that, and then cut holes in it in the weed block and planted through that, and I really did not like that experience. Plus gophers had a field day with my potatoes and other things, so I said screw that, I'm going to put in cheap raised beds. So that's exactly what I've done. But I want to show you here real quick how I've done these. These are redwood boards, so they should last a little bit longer. They're untreated. You can see I've stapled gopher wire to the bottom of each bed. They're just 2x4s because I'm doing this by myself and I can't handle a bigger bed. So they're all 2x4 and I assembled them. So this row is going to be a 2x8. So what I've done to fill these is the first step was to take some of the mulch and place it on the bottom and kind of try and work it through the mesh to kind of give a little bit of a foundation under it. Then what I did is a friend of mine had some sheep, and you can see the fleece that I have put under there, and they gave me 5 fleeces from a Tunis sheep, which is not a sheep that you want to spin. And I tried to see if the fleece was even worth trying to process, and it disintegrated in my hand. So it was like, garden mulch it is. So it's the bottom level is, so on top of the mulch in the very bottom, you can see the mulch there, and then the fleece. And why the fleece? Multiple reasons, one of which is this is loaded with nutrients, and it will also dissolve and become more organic stuff for the bed, but it will take a while to dissolve. It will not be a quick process, but what it does do is it holds moisture. And here I am in California. That's great. I want as much moisture holding as it can without waterlogging things. So on top of the fleece, I have added cardboard, and I've been saving up the cardboard from various projects, including, you see, Chewy, various other things like that. And I ripped off all of the labels, and none of these boards have the glossy print on them, or none of these cardboard have any of the glossy print on them. So trying to keep PFAS down to a minimum, reasonably speaking. I've also included some of the paper stuffing in some of these. And then on top of that, one of the things that I had done was we had a big storm come through, and it blew down a whole bunch of pine needles. So I've been driving around town and collecting the big pine needles and just threw them in here in a big pile, because I'm topping off the beds with these, and the very next step after this will be getting a compost topsoil mix and then putting it on top of that, and then I'm just going to plant straight into it and let these all degrade over time. And I'm expecting that might take a year, maybe 2, to break down fully. But I was also expecting that with my grass at home, because what we did was we ripped up the yard and I had all this sod. So what I did with the sod was I laid it upside down in the sun to kill all the roots, but it didn't actually degrade the grass. So then after the roots were fully dead, like 4 or 5 months later, I layered all of my beds at home with sod, just straight up layered sod, and then I planted straight into the sod. And less than a year later, that sod had completely broken down, and it was just pure gold in terms of my plants were happy as a clam. So I'm expecting this will be pretty good. But basically the cost for these beds was literally the cost of the hardware wire and the cost of the boards. These are 6-foot boards that are 8 inches wide, and I cut 2 feet off of each board. So 2 6-foot boards make 1 2x4 bed. Super easy. They're just screwed into the ends here. Nothing fancy. And then I used my staple gun and stapled the crap out of the wire to make sure that it stayed in place. So the next step, once these are filled, is to cut new this stuff, the weed fabric, weed block, and line each of these beds, each of these rows, the walkways. But I'm going to take some of this mulch and spread it along the walkways there to try and get this ground as absolutely rich as possible, because the roots ultimately are going to go down into the ground, which is exactly what I want. But I don't want gophers eating another crop. So there we go. That's how I'm doing this. Just giving you a different idea, because I've seen how some other folks have done it. They've done logs and things like that. These beds aren't thick enough to do logs, so what else can I do to fill them without spending a ton of money? And this was my solution. And we'll see, other than the little bit of topsoil compost that's going to go on the top, which I'm going to buy from a landscaper and get like a bucket load, a skid loader bucket load full, and just that should be enough to do these 6 8-foot beds. So we will see. Anyway, just shared that idea with you, give you something to think about, or a different way of approaching it. All right, you guys have fun in your gardens. Bye.